a square piece of paper. I cut it out about just a little bit under 4 3/4, so I think I cut it out 4 1/2 by 4 1/2. Then cut it point to point in half, and then you have a triangle cut to fit this part of your roof line. Now this is the one that I have marked 3 holes. Now you can barely see it there, and I'm going to try to punch these. Now it would have been easier to punch them without this attached, but then my positioning of my hinge might not have been correct. So I'm going to get my foam piercing mat. This is for those who might not have a drill. Normally I would use a drill, but we're going to try to do this with the piercing mat and see how well that works. So with the foam underneath, and make sure your fingers are clear, punch a hole where you've made a mark and see if you can get that in there. I'm going to flatten this out. Okay, we've got the 3 holes. You might need to work it in some to make sure they're big enough for your brads to go through. And I have those ready. Now to attach the hinge, I have used, you need to use these 10mm brads, and with as long prongs as you can find. I think these were Basil's. I don't know if you can get those anymore. And you need to take your hinge, and we're going to put some glue, and I use the Quick Grip permanent adhesive, and I put some where each hole is and in between, like that. Go ahead and recap this because it just tends to keep oozing out. And then make sure the hinge part is out, and go ahead and position this over the holes, and then drop the brads in. So you'll need 3 brads for this. Remember, as this glue dries, if you get it off of out from under the hinge, that once it dries, you can rub it off. Okay, this brad does not want to go through. Let me try to get the other one on, and then we'll work on that center one. These holes are a little bit smaller than what I'd like for them to be. This one had its prongs were bent. One was bent in wrong. Okay. There we go. And then open these up so they go side to side. You don't want them going into the fold line, so you want to turn them to make sure they go parallel to the fold. This one here is just wanting to give me trouble, but I think I got it. And make sure you press them open good. Make sure they're in good, and that glue is going to help secure it. And then I've got a little bit there that I need to rub off. So that is how this hinge piece works there. Now then, this lid is going to be lifting up the whole assembly of the roof. So now we need to position the roof onto the box. So you have just a little bit of overhang on each tip. So line this up, and then we'll go ahead and mark the holes again. This time you should be able to use your big bite, and I'm going to use the smaller hole puncher, and just punch those holes, just line it up. Put something inside there I can't see. There we go. Okay, we've got those punched. Same thing, we're going to put a little bit of the quick grab glue in the holes and then run some between each hole to hold that hinge down. And remember, this sits flat. And now we're going to have to position these holes and get those brads dropped in. Before this glue sets up. So into the center hole, push that in. Trying to make sure that I'm in the camera. So we have them all three like that. Hold with your thumb to lift up the lid piece, and then open these brad legs. You want them to go again side to side, parallel with the top edge of the chipboard. Push each one out as you open up the prongs, and make sure you get them open really good. And we want to let that dry, and that's what your hinge piece should look like right there. And I'll do some cleanup later on that. Now what I did last night after the camera was off, I did take my gathered twigs, distress ink, and I did decide that I liked the edges of the hinges inked a little bit. So if you can see on the box here how I've inked all the edges, and where the glue is showing got rubbed on it, that gives it a little bit of distress look. So we need to do it here on this lid piece, just like that. Okay. Make sure these hinges are securely glued in. And got all the edges inked. Okay, while the hinge glue is drying, I went ahead and patterned this piece, this end of the roof with the matching papers that I'd already pre-cut.